There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim. The Genesis 6 narrative states that the Nephilim are on the earth in those days and also afterwards. If that's true, can we find evidence that corroborates this? I'm L.A. Marzulli. Join me as we go on the trail of the Nephilim. Well, our lead story today right here comes from The Mirror, where yours truly is mentioned in several places. In fact, I would describe the article as a soft hit piece on your intrepid host. However, here's the lead story. Soldiers killed 13-foot monster descended from biblical times, YouTuber claims. We'll get into that and so much more. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor, BioTrust. Check this out. Studies have revealed that our appearance affects our mental health. The anti-aging industry has tried to capitalize on that for decades. Unfortunately, many of the anti-aging products out there fall short. This is because most of the serums and supplements out there don't target the source of the problem. That's why I'm such a huge fan of multi-collagen. Multi-collagen works to quickly restore youthfulness back to your skin. It helps by combating loose skin and wrinkles and does this quicker and more effectively than anything else. Imagine how good your skin will look this summer with taking it. If you want to look and feel your best, grab some multi-collagen today. Get up to 51% off for the next 24 hours only by going to healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com, or by visiting a link below. So, scrolling down, the giant of Kandahar, a 13-foot tall monster with red hair and six-fingered hands that lived in the mountains of Afghanistan, was killed and covered up by the U.S. government. This is by Bernadette Giacomozo, Joe Ferretra, and Charlie Duffield. You know, these guys could just contact me, yours truly, and I'll be more than happy to share all the information with them. So I find it interesting, and before I get into that, let me circle back to the weekend. I was at the UFO Disclosure Conference. There it is right there. It was about 150, 170 people there. Two women came to the Lord, gave their lives to the Lord. Peggy and I actually led them and did some work with them. What I mean by that, there was stuff going on. Doors had been opened and we shut those doors, and they recanted from opening those doors and they gave their life to Jesus. So for those of you who love that kind of stuff, we covered your prayers. Thank you for your prayers. There's the fruit of our labor right off the bat. Other things happen behind the scenes, but I won't get into that right now. This sort of sums it up without patting me on the back. This comes from Brother Kim. L.A., brilliant. You took a lifetime of research and jammed it into a couple of hours. That is an amazing feat. I wish so much that I could have been there in the audience instead of at my kitchen table. I prayed for you the whole week prior, and God clearly spoke through you. Thank you, sir. These deceivers are malevolent, not benevolent. And the other speakers and the audience needed to hear that. I was very surprised that you were basically the only presenter to really discuss abduction. That is a key factor in all of this. And so there you go. That's from Kim, and thank you so much for those kind words, and thank you those out there who gave us air support. What I mean by that, of course, is your prayers. That made all the difference in the world. I would say the crowd was sort of lukewarm. We definitely hit a nerve. They didn't know how to do it. A lot of people had never heard the biblical perspective to all this, and some people did. We had some brothers and sisters in the audience that made their way to Vernal just to hear the presentation. My critique of it was, and I think Kim mentioned it, I really tried cramming way too much stuff. I went 10 minutes over. So it was an hour and 40 minutes, and there was a ton of information there. But anyway, that will be available, I'm sure, on a DVD. So let's get into the story and walk through it. A 13-foot monster with red hair and hands with 6 fingers, whose home was in the Afghanistan mountains, was allegedly killed up and covered up by the U.S. government. That is according to a witness who claimed to have seen the killing in a YouTube interview, which has since been deleted. The military contractor claimed to have been present during the brutal slaughter of a killer he called the Kandahar Giant in an interview with YouTuber L.A. Marzulli. During my presentation, I circled back to the Kandahar Giant and talked about the way the game is played. When Richard Shaw and I released that in Watchers 10, it was unbelievable, the blowback that came, the pushback. I was contacted by a guy, which I could only assume was from the deep state, who told me in the first minute, basically threatened me 3 different ways how they could destroy me. And I did it there at the conference, and I've said it before. I publicly went out with it. So, if I get arrested and they find kiddie porn on my phone, I don't have kiddie porn on my phone. Or if my car goes over the cliff here, going down one of the canyons, maybe something else is going on. Or if one of my kids go missing and never found again, right? But when Trump was elected, it all kind of went away. Everything went away. And remember that, and I'll get into this in just a little bit, the way the game is played, it's a managed agenda. You're allowed to go and uncover certain things, but if you get too close to something, why did this guy contact me? Why doesn't the writers of the story talk about that? Of course, they don't talk about that. So this is reworked by Charlie Dufield, and of course, it's May 30th. So that's yesterday. I spoke on Sunday. Boom. Was he in the audience? I don't know. And, I'm a YouTuber, yes, but I've also written 13 books, working on number 14, and produced, co-produced, or directed 21 films. That's why it's a soft hit piece. So let's go on. The military contractor claimed to have been present during the brutal slaughter of a killer he called the Kandahar Giant in an interview with YouTuber L.A. Marzulli, the Daily Star reports. Marzulli speaks to the man claiming to be a soldier who said he witnessed the Giant of Kandahar on his YouTube channel, which is dedicated to linking current events to biblical prophecies. Mr. K claimed he saw the giant carrying a spear and murdering a United States soldier named Dan before he and the other special forces took it down. None of the events have been substantiated. Wait. We have a second witness who was not part of this of the team of the we call him the shooter, the guy that we actually interviewed. He was there a few years after the fact, and he said the entire base, the rumors were going around on base about the giant being killed. So is he lying too? Then you've got Steve Quayle, who years before, a pilot contacted him that he flew out a giant. Well, guess what? We got that witness from Steve Quayle and our witness, we got them together, and they were talking shop, and they realized that these were 2 different occasions, not the same giant, about a year or 2 apart in 2 different locations. So now we have 2. So, we can only do so much here. We have limited funds. You guys know that. I don't have resources to fly to Afghanistan and, spend a couple of weeks in the Kandahar province nosing around, nor do I want to do that. But let's continue, all right? None of the events have been substantiated. He said the killing of the giant took place during the height of the Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002, when the military was engaged in tough battles with the Taliban and their de facto capital in Kandahar, Afghanistan, during the U.S. invasion of that country. It even killed one of the Special Forces soldiers with a spear before the rest of the unit brought it down with a hail of gunfire. According to Marzulli, the creature was, drumroll please, a NEPHILIM, a group of people mentioned in the Genesis and Numbers books of the Old Testament, who were believed to be the people of unusually large size and strength that could be found in the Middle East both before and after the flood of Noah's Ark fame. But biblical scholars largely agree that the Nephilim tales were metaphors and not based on the reality of a 13-foot giant living in the desert. Stop right there. What biblical scholars are you referring to? Madams, sirs, what biblical scholars? I mean, you want me to bring a bunch of biblical scholars here? I'll be more than happy to do that. We can have a discussion, a lively discussion. You can get your biblical scholars and we'll get our biblical scholars. Look, right here, how the Nephilim returned after the flood. The B'nai Elohim mentioned in Genesis 6, the sons of God, they are always the angels. The giants were in the land. If the Nephilim aren't there, then the rest of the biblical narrative makes no sense. Genesis 3:15, we know that it's a seed war. The seed of a dragon will be at enmity, at war with the seed of the woman. That sets up the rest of the narrative, the rest of the biblical prophetic narrative, in my humble opinion. The Nephilim were real. That's resulted in the flood. So what biblical scholars are these authors referring to? Why is there not a footnote? Well, we have no idea. They're just making stuff up, pulling a rabbit out of their hat, as it were. Furthermore, the only dam that died in Kandahar around the time of the alleged incident in 2002 was Sergeant Class Daniel Romero, who was killed in a bomb blast alongside 3 other soldiers. Okay, and that's what they say, but how do we know that? If this guy Dan was killed by a giant of Kandahar, right? You can bet your boots, you can bet your bottom dollar, right, that there's no way that's going to be in the official narrative. They're going to twist it or say something else, or whatever, or just completely obfuscate the thing altogether. They can't let that come out. Yet even with the evidence stacked against it, the myth of the Kandahar giant is still said to be an open secret among soldiers who served in Kandahar in 2002. Our second witness talked about doing cave training when he got to the Kandahar province, and they said aim high. Now, why did they tell him to aim high? And they were going, well, why are we aiming high? Oh, you'll find out. He's on the record in the film. In fact, what I might do, if I can get it, I think I can get the clip. I'll circle back to that maybe on Thursday, and we'll have more of a discussion on that. Let's continue. Army officers have recalled stories of entire troops disappearing in the mountains of Afghanistan in the early 2000s. Their gear was located in a strange cave with no soldiers nearby. Then, as the legend has it, the Army put the dead giant in a Chinook helicopter, flew away with him, and he was never seen again. Not only that, but the story itself was squashed as the soldiers were all required to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. The popular myth-debunking site, Snopes, reported out to the Department, or reached out to the Department of Defense about the Kandahar giant incident. The Department of Defense said they had no record of information about a Special Forces member killed by a giant in Kandahar. Do we really think for 1 second that they would come forward with anything like this? Come on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They would never do that. We all know that. The Department of Defense said they had no record of information, blah, blah, blah. At approximately the same time that the Snopes article came out that discredited the story, the self-proclaimed supernaturalist L.A. Marzulli told multiple right-wing websites the United States government was covering up the story. It said those in power had a vested interest in keeping the truth of biblical prophecies from being exposed to the general public. Marzulli said, people have a right to know about this stuff. If there are 15 or 18 footers roaming around the earth and our military has brought them down, we have a right as American citizens to know about it. Folks, we do. I stand by that. Look, we know that the giants were real. How do we know that? Because in my book, On the Trail of the Nephilim, right there, we discovered what I can only call a 9-footer that was found out, drum roll please, on the Catalina Island. I will show you the original picture, which has never been debunked, right here. Right, there's the picture. And what we do is we stand Ralph Glidden up right there, take him out of the picture. Thank you, Mr. Michael Register, for doing this. Then we take the giant out, we stand him up, and you can see immediately the disparity. The giant is about 8 foot 6 inches. The other two researchers put it at just over 9 feet. Something is going on. There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why we are on the trail. Folks, all I can tell you is this, that do we really think for a second that the DOD, Department of Defense, would be forthright enough to come out with this type of information? Of course they wouldn't. We also had information from other so-called witnesses who were directly involved in this. We've never really gone public with it because there's no way to vet their story. We went public with the shooter because I interviewed this man 3 different times. Before we got him, flew him out here and got him on camera. Every single time I interviewed him, and I met him in Ohio, face to face. So I interviewed him there were 3 separate times of interviewing him. Asked, well, tell the story again. And he would tell the story. And every time he got to the part where Dan is skewered, literally stabbed, run through with the spear and then hoisted up like this, he would break down and cry. Now, he's a great actor, and as a student of body language, the guy wasn't acting, or he's telling the truth. And of course, then we've got Steve Quayle's pilot and our shooter got together and they discussed it, and we realized that there were 2 different giants, 2 different locations, and about a year or 2 apart. This is real. in my opinion, that the giants were on the earth in those days and afterward, when the sons of God saw the daughters of men and went into them. If you've not read Countermove, it's a must-read, and I mean that. Look, required reading, Dr. Mark Kahn. Positive Illumination, James Reardon. Needs to be shared, Bill Salas. This will, and you know what? Dr. Mark Kahn, Pastor Mondo Gonzalez, Ken Johnson, Douglas Hamp, to name a few, Sonda, Allison comes on the record. They all contributed to this book. This book took 2 years to write. The warfare was through the roof. So my challenge basically is this to Charlie Duffield, because he's taken this story from the Star and sort of reworked it. And I find it interesting that they published it yesterday, one day after the conference, where I was talking about the Kandahar giant right there at the UFO conference. And I'll just show this one more time right there. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back with another episode of Supernatural Confrontations, our new show right here on our YouTube channel. If you've had a supernatural confrontation, please shoot me an email, supernatural@lamarzulli.net, supernatural@lamarzulli.net. You can also avail yourself of all 7 of the films on the Trail of a Nephilim. There's so much information in that. If you want to watch the Kandahar giant clip, you've got to buy The Best of Watchers. It's there. I think you'll find it interesting. I'm going to try to dig it up, and maybe I'll show that on Thursday. Thanks so much for watching On the Trail of a Nephilim. Remember, there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of a Nephilim.